value beyond my family's dismissal of my career choice as doodling buildings. My parents saw the media coverage. I learned through the grapevine that always exists in Charlotte's interconnected professional circles. My father reportedly commented to someone that he had always known Maya would do well in business, attempting to claim retroactive support for a career he had actively opposed. My mother apparently told people she was so proud but sad that family conflict prevented her from celebrating properly, painting herself as the wounded mother rather than the parent who sued her own daughter. The restraining order extension hearing was scheduled for early November, 1 year after the original order, requiring renewal for continued protection. Jennifer filed the motion along with our comprehensive documentation of continued harassment attempts, Vanessa's Instagram violations, the apology letter that revealed no genuine understanding of her actions, the defamation threat, and several instances of my parents using intermediaries to attempt contact despite the order. They violated the spirit of the restraining order repeatedly, Jennifer explained. The court should extend it for at least another 2 years, possibly permanently. Judge Martinez reviewed our evidence with the same tired frustration she had shown throughout the Sterling family legal saga. Ms. Rao, your client has maintained boundaries, sought legal protection, and consistently been harassed by family members who refuse to accept those boundaries. The pattern is clear. She turned to the respondents section, where my parents sat with Marcus Webb, apparently willing to show up for this hearing since it affected them directly. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, you have used third parties to contact your daughter despite a court order. You have supported your younger daughter's violations and legal actions. Explain why this court should not hold you in contempt. My father stood, trying to reclaim the executive authority that had served him for decades. Your Honor, we're simply parents trying to repair our family. Maya has misrepresented our relationship and made reconciliation impossible through legal barriers. We love our daughter and want the opportunity to rebuild trust. Judge Martinez's expression suggested she had heard similar arguments too many times. Mr. Sterling, you sued your daughter for property she legitimately owned. That's not love. That's attempted theft through legal process. Sit down. My mother tried next, tears ready as always. We made mistakes, Your Honor, but we're her parents. Doesn't that relationship deserve some protection, some opportunity for healing? Judge Martinez looked at her with something close to pity. Mrs. Sterling, the relationship you're describing requires mutual consent. Your daughter has clearly, consistently, and legally established that she does not consent to relationship with you. This court's role is to protect her right to that choice, not to force reconciliation because you've decided you want one. The restraining order was extended for 3 years with strengthened provisions. No third-party contact, no social media monitoring or posting, no attempts to communicate through professional channels, no attendance at public events where my presence was announced in advance. Violations would result in immediate contempt charges and jail time, no suspended sentences, no warnings. My parents left the courtroom looking older somehow, finally understanding that legal consequences were real and their parental status provided no immunity. Vanessa didn't attend the hearing, having learned that her presence in court generally made things worse for her. But that evening, she posted on a private Facebook account, not realizing that several of her friends were also connected to people who knew me. The post called Judge Martinez biased, called me vindictive, and suggested she was considering taking her story public to expose judicial corruption. Screenshots reached Jennifer within an hour, and we filed for contempt the next morning. The contempt hearing happened fast, Judge Martinez clearly tired of Vanessa's repeated violations. The evidence was straightforward. Vanessa had posted about me on social media after being explicitly ordered not to. Not just once, but now 3 times. Her attorney, the same court-appointed counsel from before, looked defeated before proceedings even began. Your Honor, my client struggles with impulse control and social media addiction. She needs counseling, not incarceration. Judge Martinez was unmoved. Your client needs to follow court orders, counselor. Ms. Sterling, you were given a suspended sentence last time with explicit warning that further violations would result in jail time. You violated anyway. This court sentences you to 5 days in county jail, sentence to begin immediately, and extends your restraining order to 5 years. If you violate again, the sentence will be 30 days. Do you understand? Vanessa, finally grasping that consequences were real, started crying. The bailiff led her away, and I felt absolutely nothing except satisfaction that boundaries were being enforced. My parents tried to blame me for Vanessa's incarceration, sending a letter through their attorney claiming I was destroying their daughter over petty grudges. Jennifer responded with a detailed timeline showing that every legal consequence Vanessa faced resulted from her own actions, her own lawsuits, her own violations. Your daughter is an adult responsible for her own choices. Ms. Maya Sterling has simply protected herself through appropriate legal channels. Your continued attempts to assign blame to the victim of your family's harassment are noted and documented. Thanksgiving approached with no family obligations for the first time in my adult life. I volunteered to work at a community kitchen serving holiday meals, finding more genuine connection with strangers grateful for warm food than I had ever felt at my parents' elaborate holiday dinners. Colleagues invited me to their family celebrations, and I attended 2 different Thanksgiving events, welcomed into other people's families with warmth my own had never provided. December brought Dr. Morrison's invitation to speak at a conference on family estrangement and recovery in San Francisco. I accepted, taking vacation time to fly across the country and share my experience with therapists, social workers, and other professionals who worked with estranged adults. My presentation focused on the legal aspects, how documentation protected me, how courts could enforce boundaries when families refused to respect them, how restraining orders weren't dramatic overreactions, but sometimes necessary tools for self-protection. The audience response was overwhelming. A standing ovation, requests for copies of my documentation templates, therapists asking permission to share my story with clients who felt guilty about setting boundaries. One woman approached me afterward, tears streaming down her face, and said, "My parents sued me for grandparent visitation rights to force me to give them access to my children. I thought I was alone in having family weaponize the legal system. Thank you for showing me I'm not crazy for protecting myself." I returned from San Francisco energized, my experience validated by professionals who understood family dynamics and trauma. The Beach House Office Edition was complete, the space perfect for working remotely or sketching personal projects. I spent Christmas week there alone, watching winter storms over the Atlantic, reading, designing a theoretical project just for myself, a small sustainable cottage that existed only in my imagination. The solitude felt like luxury. No performances, no walking on eggshells, no managing other people's emotions, just peace. The new year arrived with professional opportunities multiplying. The Durham project's success led to inquiries from developers in 3 other cities, all wanting the architect who had delivered excellent work on time and on budget. I was promoted to junior partner at Anderson & Associates, the youngest person to achieve that level in the firm's 40-year history. My salary increased to $230,000 annually, and I received equity stake in the firm. Success continued building on success, entirely independent of family support. Vanessa completed her jail sentence in early January, released after 5 days with probation conditions that included mandatory counseling and social media restrictions. She emerged to find her Instagram account had been hacked and deleted during her incarceration. Years of carefully curated content vanished. Her attempts to rebuild her following failed, the engagement never returning. People had moved on to other influencers who actually produced content rather than just documenting grievances. My parents' social situation continued deteriorating. My mother was asked to resign from 2 charity boards after her behavior toward me became common knowledge among Charlotte's philanthropic circles. Several board members had daughters or knew women with similar family estrangement stories, and they had no patience for Patricia Sterling's performance of wounded motherhood while ignoring her role in creating the situation. My father lost a consulting opportunity when the company's background research uncovered the lawsuit, and his attorneys sanctioning for frivolous litigation. February brought my 35th birthday, celebrated again at the Beach House with an even larger gathering. 70 people filled the property, the new office addition serving as a bar area, the deck crowded with colleagues and friends who had become my chosen family. Jennifer gave her annual toast, this one about the strength required to build a life entirely on your own terms and the courage to defend that life against people who claimed authority over it, simply through genetic connection. During the party, I received an email from my parents' attorney, a new one since Marcus Webb had apparently learned his lesson about representing the Sterlings. The email contained a formal offer. My parents would drop all contact attempts, respect all boundaries, and acknowledge my ownership of the beach property in exchange for a single-family meeting mediated by a professional therapist. The offer was presented as generous, a final opportunity for healing and closure. I showed Jennifer the email, and we laughed at the audacity. "They still don't understand that you don't need closure from them," Jennifer observed. "They think you're missing something that only they can provide, when actually you have everything you need because you built it yourself." I drafted a response declining the offer and explaining that I had already achieved closure. It arrived when I accepted that they were incapable of the relationship I deserved and stopped wanting something they couldn't provide. The response clearly stated that I wanted no further contact through attorneys or otherwise, that all communication attempts were violations of the restraining order's spirit, if not its letter, and that continued harassment would result in additional legal action. I never received a reply, and the contact attempts finally, fully stopped. Silence replaced the constant boundary violations, and that silence felt like victory. Spring arrived with new growth, both literal and metaphorical. The beach house garden that I had planted the previous year bloomed with native coastal plants, a low-maintenance landscape that required minimal care and provided habitat for local wildlife. I spent weekends there reading on the deck, swimming in the still cold Atlantic, existing in a space that was completely, legally, permanently mine without any family claim or shadow. The Durham project won a Regional Sustainable Architecture Award in March, my first major professional recognition. The awards ceremony was attended by city officials, developers, and architecture professionals from across North Carolina. My parents were not invited and did not attend, though I learned later they saw coverage in the Charlotte newspaper. My chosen family filled a table, Jennifer and colleagues and friends who had supported my journey, celebrating an achievement that was entirely my own. Dr. Morrison's book won an award in April for nonfiction psychology writing, bringing renewed attention to the stories within it, including mine. She invited me to co-present at a psychology conference in Chicago, discussing the legal aspects of protecting yourself from family harassment. We stood before 200 therapists and social workers, sharing strategies that had worked, documentation systems that proved effective, the importance of treating family boundary violations as seriously as violations by strangers. Vanessa's probation ended in May without incident, but her life had contracted significantly. She still lived with our parents, still had no steady employment, still maintained a small social media presence that generated no income. From what I heard through distant connections, she had finally gotten a retail job at a department store, working part-time for minimum wage at age 29. The golden child my parents had lavished with money and opportunity had become exactly what they feared I would become, dependent and financially unstable. The irony was not lost on me. My parents settled into their reduced social standing, no longer prominent in Charlotte circles they had once dominated. My father accepted that his reputation was permanently affected by the lawsuit, his business ethics questioned by people who mattered in his world. My mother stopped hosting elaborate charity events, her guest lists shrinking as people tired of her victimhood narrative. They stayed together in the house that had been my childhood prison, growing older and smaller in their own bitterness. I spent my 36th birthday in June at the beach house, a quiet celebration with just my closest friends. The property had appreciated to $2.4 million, the office addition and general market trends increasing its value. I had no plans to sell, viewing it as both home and investment, the physical manifestation of success achieved through my own effort and defended through appropriate legal channels. Every time I walked through the door, I felt the satisfaction of ownership earned and protected. The firm offered me full partnership in July, a promotion that came with significant equity stake and seat on the leadership committee. At 36, I was the youngest full partner in firm history. My technical skills and business development ability setting me apart from architects who viewed the profession as purely creative rather than also commercial. I negotiated my partnership agreement personally, understanding contracts and leverage in ways my architecture training hadn't taught, but my family dysfunction had. Aunt Patricia visited again in August, our annual tradition of genuine family connection. She brought news that my mother had asked about me, wondering if I was happy, if my life had turned out well, if I ever thought about reconciliation. Patricia had been honest. Maya is thriving. She has a career she loves, friends who value her, and a life built entirely on her own terms. She thinks about you only when legally required to document harassment attempts. That's not cruelty, Eleanor. It's healing. I asked Patricia if she thought my mother understood, if somewhere beneath the narcissism and favoritism, there was genuine remorse. Patricia considered the question carefully. I think she regrets losing access to you, Maya. I don't think she regrets the actions that led to that loss. She still sees herself as the wronged party, the mother whose ungrateful daughter abandoned her over misunderstandings. She's incapable of the self-reflection required for genuine remorse. Fall arrived with the satisfaction of annual rituals established in my new life. Work projects that challenged and fulfilled me, weekends at the beach house that restored my energy, friendships that deepened through shared experience rather than genetic obligation, professional recognition that validated my choices. I was 36 years old, successful by any measure that mattered, and completely free from the family that had viewed my independence as betrayal. The 5-year anniversary of purchasing the beach house passed in October, marked by a small ceremony where I burned the final mortgage statement. The property was paid off completely, 4 years ahead of schedule, aggressive payments made possible by my increasing salary and refusal to fund anyone's lifestyle but my own. $2.4 million in real estate, owned free and clear, the ultimate proof that success earned through effort meant more than anything given or stolen. I thought occasionally about my parents and sister, wondered if they had learned anything from the legal consequences and lost relationships, but mostly I didn't think about them at all. Having achieved the genuine closure that comes from accepting reality, rather than demanding change from people incapable of growth, they had shown me repeatedly who they were. I had finally, permanently believed them. Dr. Morrison contacted me in November with news that a documentary filmmaker wanted to create a film about family estrangement, featuring several stories from her book. I declined participation, having shared my story enough, ready to move from public advocacy back to private success. My role was never to be a professional estranged daughter, just someone who protected herself and then lived well, demonstrating that escape was possible and life after family could be full and meaningful. December brought holiday cards from friends and colleagues, genuine expressions of appreciation and connection. I sent none to my parents or sister, the restraining order making contact inappropriate and my own boundaries making it undesired. I volunteered again at the community kitchen on Thanksgiving, finding tradition in service rather than family obligation. Christmas was quiet, peaceful, exactly what I needed. The new year arrived with professional opportunities multiplying, personal satisfaction deepening, and the continued absence of family drama that had once consumed so much energy. I was 36 years old, thriving in career and life, surrounded by chosen family who valued me genuinely, protected by legal boundaries that enforced what my biological family had refused to respect, my autonomy and worth. The beach house stood on its foundation, weathering storms, appreciating in value, requiring maintenance but providing sanctuary. Much like me, it had been built carefully, purchased independently, defended fiercely, and existed now as proof that investment in yourself, protection of your boundaries, and refusal to accept mistreatment could result in something beautiful and permanent and entirely your own. I stood on the deck one January morning, coffee in hand, watching the sun rise over the Atlantic, and felt the complete absence of regret. Some people spend their lives seeking approval from parents incapable of giving it, trying to earn love from siblings who view them as competition, accepting crumbs while others receive banquets. I had chosen differently, demanded better, protected myself legally when family refused to respect boundaries, and built a life that reflected my values rather than their dysfunction. The lawsuits were distant memories now, documented in court records but no longer emotional wounds. The estrangement was permanent, a conscious choice I reaffirmed daily through the peace and success it enabled. The family that had tried to steal my achievement had instead given me the final gift of clarity, showing me definitively that I owed them nothing, that their attempts at control were powerless against legal boundaries and personal resolve, that success defended was even sweeter than success earned. I inherited nothing from my parents except DNA, received nothing from them except criticism and neglect, owed them nothing except the truth that they were toxic and I was better off without them. The $2 million beach house they tried to claim for my sister stood as monument to that truth. Every square foot purchased with my money, every legal challenge defeated with my documentation, every sunset viewed from my deck proof that the best revenge is living well while refusing to share that life with people who never valued you properly. Some stories end with reconciliation and healing. Mine ended with legal victories, enforced boundaries, professional success, and the satisfaction of knowing that I had protected myself completely, built a life entirely on my own terms, and demonstrated that family of origin holds no power over adults who choose freedom over dysfunction. That was enough. That was everything.